A warm welcome to all of you. I'm Manoj Roy, and today we would like to discuss on the data and the digital trends and how these trends are actually fueling the digital innovations. So that's what we just like to discuss in this discussions. Thanks very much for being here. And I'd like to introduce my guest here. So Saurabh Jha, he is Global Head of Data Analytics, Tech Mahindra, and Waqar Ahmed, he's a Senior Director, Cloud Sales and Strategy of Informatica. So thank you very much both for being here and for your time. What are the top digital trends post-pandemic, and what role will data play in driving the next phase of the digital innovation? So yeah, sort of over to you if you can start with that, and then Waqar, you can chime in with that.
Thanks, Manoj. Thanks for that introduction. So yeah, I mean, the top digital trends post-pandemic, there are multiple digital trends actually, if you look at it, right? A lot of it has to do around, if I have to sum it up, it is to derive better insights from the data that customers either have or now they have access to, right? So when we are talking about, for example, we talk about AI and advanced data analytics, right? So adopting AI across the organization. And I'm not only talking about, some AI use cases, small use cases. I'm talking about enterprise scale AI, where just like, we had, for example, BI to begin with, and then we had self-service BI. And now it is, the whole notion is about making BI accessible to everyone. Similarly, the play is that we need AI to be accessible to every business and technology user across the organization. Why is this needed? Across different business functions. Now, if I talk of any typical company, right, whether it is and the functions like product development, for example, or customer, for example, or supply chain, for example, the kind of insights that can be generated out of across these different functions can provide a lot of major competitive edge to customers. And that is where a lot of our customers are focusing on, especially because of the pandemic, which saw supply chain disruptions all over the world. There has been a major focus on supply chain, getting nth tier visibility into the supply chain, customer 360, getting insights into the entire customer journey. A lot of businesses were offline who were suddenly thrown online. And online, you need to know your customer, every part of your customer, because the customer is not in front of you. So that is a different level of insights you need. And similarly for product development, to kind of recycle the information. So once the product is out in the market, getting the feedback, improving the product and the whole cycle. And there are many other use cases for AI, insights, analytics, sure, and so on. Now, in order for all of these to work, you first need to have data in place, right? And when I say data in place, you need to have, clean data. You need to have the right kind of data. You need to have that data has to be managed properly, governed properly. The quality has to be taken care of. We have looked at, for example, we have worked on customer MDM for the longest time. But today, it's not limited to just customer. Today, we are looking at multi-domain MDMs, which look at products, vendors, and so on. We are looking at AI and ML augmented data governance, for example, and data quality management, right? And then we are also looking at new frameworks and new patterns for data architecture, right? Which we are calling as either data mesh or data fabric. All of these things are trending because one, we need to have the right kind of data, whether it is from internal sources of an enterprise or from external sources. We need to put that data in the right place, manage it properly, and then we have to make that data available, like whether it is data as a service or through data marketplace or through APIs, in order to derive insights. So I think these are the major trends that I've been observing in the market in the post-pandemic scenario.
Thanks, Saurabh. Thank you. Waqar, can you please add on top of that?
So I think some really interesting insights from Saurabh, and I'd like to build on top of that. But let us take a step back and see what actually happened during the pandemic. And I think it's fair to say that the last 2 years have been devastating. On one hand, it has completely, tested and shocked our traditional business models and ecosystems and, service delivery models, so on and so forth. But on the other hand, due to the disruptive nature of the lockdowns, it has completely transformed customer behavior as well. And hence now businesses were forced during pandemic, and that trend is still continuing, where they are forced to digitally transform to stay relevant to the customers that they serve. Everything about our lives have changed, and we can see it in our own lives as well. Simple things as how we order food, how we pay our bills, how we buy products, all of that has changed. And if I were to say that in this battle of the survivor, it's not the big companies beating the small ones, it's rather the fast companies beating the slower ones, and companies which are fast are transforming with data at the core of its strategy. So when you talk about digital transformation, it's not just about launching mobile applications or new digital services. Without tapping into the potential of data and having a proper data management strategy, these strategies can never be successful. Now, what I see in my role, if I were to talk about top 2 trends across Europe and Middle East Africa region, I'd say the first one would be that there is a lot of investment and focus going into the modernization of data platforms. And, we have been talking about BI and analytics for decades. It was data 1.0 when you had on-premise data warehouses. Then it moved into the Hadoop unstructured world. Now, when customers talk about data, it's not just limited to BI. You're talking about artificial intelligence. You're talking about so many other things around data, where data actually acts as a catalyst for driving, transformation. And hence, businesses are not taking data platform modernization seriously. When you talk about data platform modernization, it's not just a move to cloud where you build a lake house on the cloud, but it's the whole strategy around that. So I'd say that's number one. And the other one is data monetization, which in some cases could be taken as a dirty word because it comes across, maybe you want to sell data. But from my perspective, when you talk about data monetization, it's basically a business looking at its data as a key asset, and then using that data as to drive real business value and proposition for themselves and for their partners, and driving that top line, bottom line growth.
In related to these questions, actually, I'd like to understand, how can the business untap the potential of the data by leveraging these cloud or so-called as a service technologies? What's your view on that, Swakar?
Manoj, that's a very interesting question. And, I get that question asked quite a lot. If you look 5-6 years back, when businesses or, CIOs used to talk about data and analytics, they'll say, we have CRMs and databases and data is stuck over there. The reality is that in today's digital paradigm, or let's call it the era of super apps, right? Your customers, your employees, they're leaving data footprint every time they interact with a mobile application, with every click, even if they are searching for a competitive product on Google, right? Or maybe they are on your platform, they search for something and didn't buy. They're leaving footprint all over the place. Even if you walk through a mall, I live in Dubai, so technologically it's quite advanced. They've got, all kinds of data collection sensors over there. And this is an untapped opportunity. Now, in this paradigm, right, for businesses to really tap into the potential, I would say that it starts with not just thinking about what products or platforms we're going to buy. I think it starts with seriously thinking that what my data management strategy is going to be like and how it would evolve. And that strategy should not be built around individual products like I need ETL or I want to do data cleansing, but more of a strategic platform approach. So I would say a well thought out data management strategy that delivers short-term wins, but at the same time scales to the long-term future.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Saurabh, anything from your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think the story of data is incomplete without cloud, in fact. And I'll tell you a very simple reason why. Some statistic that I just remembered. So, every day globally, there is 2.6 or 2.7 quintillion bytes of data that is generated. Now, of course, I'm not saying every organization has to deal with that kind of data, but the way data has grown over the last few years and the way data is getting generated every year, where every year we are generating data, which is much more than all the data that has been generated till the previous year, right? Similarly, the enterprises, Waqar talked about the sensors and, the computing at edge, the kind of data that is coming in. We talk about IoT. That's one aspect. In addition to that, think of a simple customer, right? A customer's journey, starting online, going to 20 different websites, trying to, figure out what to buy, where to buy, what is the price, and so on. There is so much data that on-premise, it has become almost impossible to kind of cater to not just storing that data. Okay, for a second, let's imagine that even if you're able to figure out a way to store that data, processing that data at scale, and not just at scale, in a lot of cases in real time. I think that is where cloud becomes very, very important. So scalability, the processing power, and the real-time nature that cloud can support, the global nature of cloud. So for example, if a business wants to expand globally, there are no geographic limitations when you are on cloud. And one point that Waqar mentioned, which I want to just reiterate over here, is future-proofing your data architecture. Because you're not designing just for the next 3 years, 5 years. Maybe you'll be able to manage it on-premise for the next 3 to 5 years. But the kind of scale that that's going to be thrown at an enterprise, it cannot be managed on-premise. You have to, take your data to cloud, put it on a proper platform, manage it properly, provision for it properly, and then use it. And all of that can be enabled. I mean, the kind of scale that we are looking today can only happen on cloud. So which one is cheaper, on-premise or cloud? See, it all depends upon, how you look at it, right? Not just how you look at it, also how you manage it. We have heard stories that, a customer moved everything to cloud and suddenly their bills, ran to be very high. It was a runaway cost and so on. In most cases, I would bring it down to, somebody not managing the cloud properly, right? So, people subscribing to some things and then forgetting to turn it off and so on and so forth, very basic things. So on one hand, we need to future-proof the whole data architecture, the data platform, the utilization. See, one other major advantage of cloud versus on-premise. On cloud, most of the major service providers or even the third-party providers, all of their latest tools and technologies get launched immediately. And you can just subscribe to it and start using it. Whereas on-premise, there is the whole cycle of procurement, implementation, testing, and so on and so forth. So it's a major shortcut to leapfrog, from whatever generation you are on to a much futuristic generation in terms of tools, technologies, and capabilities, right, that you can build into your business. So absolutely agree with all the points that Waqar made, that without cloud, I think the kind of data and AI and analytics story that we are trying to build is just impossible.
Let's say, what would be your advice to those CXOs who are just about to embark on the journey of this platform modernizations? So how do you actually convince them and talk about them that this is necessary and kind of things? What would be your approach? I mean, Saurabh, if you could take this first and begin.
When we talk about modernization, there are a lot of moving parts. It's not just it's not a one single thing that, okay, modernization is one single program or a project. You have application modernization where you have to think of very different things. For example, let's say if you have 100 applications today, you really need to sit down and analyze whether I need 100 applications tomorrow. Do I need only 20 or do I need 120? Then you have, in order to really utilize the benefits of, let's say I'm just assuming that the modernization is going to happen on cloud. So can I actually utilize the capabilities of cloud? So for that, there is a lot of re-architecting that needs to be done, right? So I think the first step to any modernization is to draw out I would say at least a 10 to 20-year plan in terms of where do you see yourself 10 to 20 years from now? What is that? What is the business imperative? Where do you want to reach? And work backwards. Okay, if I need to be there, what is the kind of business plan I need? What is the kind of technology capability that I need to reach there, right? Create a business case for it. And I'll tell you, a lot of customers that we have been interacting with for the last, I would say, couple of years, there's so many tools and technologies which get launched on a monthly basis, weekly basis in the market. Something becomes hot, there are a lot of takers, but an organization may be totally unprepared to actually implement it, and then they start facing challenges, and it's a failure, right? So there are so many tools and technologies which are doing sometimes different things, sometimes very similar things. I think, if some time is dedicated to planning, okay, creating POCs. So like I said, it has to start from the vision part as to where do you want to be on the business side. I'm not talking of technology side. Only once your business vision is clear, come down to the required technological capability that you need to reach there. Once you're there, then start looking at the options that you have, whether it is in terms of which cloud, which tool, what platform, what kind of platform. Do I, for example, simple questions like, do I need capability of real-time data? Maybe you don't. So then you don't have to unnecessarily pay for such a capability. For example, do I need cutting-edge AI and CI? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So accordingly, you need to evaluate. So I think that evaluation planning phase, starting from vision to capability, right? That connect between business and technology, it's very, very important. Doing the risk analysis, what kind of new business opportunities or new business models can you create by doing this modernization? What kind of new revenue streams? What is the impact on revenue? What is the impact on cost? All of this planning really needs to be done thoroughly for any kind of modernization plan to be successful. That's what that's what I would advise in any customer.
Thank you, Saurabh. Yeah. Waqar, anything you'd like to add on top?
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, Saurabh has pretty much said, all the key points. I'll take it a step further. I think from my perspective, one of the things that I commonly see with many organizations and CXOs is that, they try to replicate what they had on premise and take the same blueprint and architecture to cloud. So I think the first thing that I'll call out is be willing to unlearn what you already know. And I think because move to cloud is not just a move, which is, you're moving from one technology stack to the other, but I think it's also presents a unique opportunity for you to, modernize and lay a blueprint, like Saurabh was saying, for a future-proof architecture for next 10 to 15 years. The second one, I think, where a lot of attention needs to be given is, I think it's time that probably a role like a business technologist needs to evolve, someone who can bridge the gap between business and technology. Like a modernization project should not just become a technology project. It has to be very well aligned to what the business mandates are and be aligned to the goal and vision being set by that. So, the business technologist role within the organization, or it could be from a consulting partner, so on and so forth. But I think that role is absolutely critical. The third one I would say is, and you often see that, when you're moving to cloud or modernizing, people make compromises, right? So don't fall into the trap of good enough is well good enough, right? Work with best of breed companies and partners. Not every startup is ready for enterprise scale. So work with proven technologists, technology companies and consulting companies, but at the same time, make sure that unlike in the on-premise ecosystem where vendor lock-in was quite common, avoid that. Ensure that when you're moving to cloud, multi-cloud, in my experience, is a reality, and make sure that vendor neutrality is part of your core strategy. And lastly, don't invest on-premise. Any on-premise investment, And I'm not saying it for the sake of saying it. I've seen with so many customers across the region, even in mature markets like Europe, where cloud adoption is quite high, the customers who invested in data platforms on-premise in the last 12 and 18 months are now being forced to divest from there and move into a cloud-native, future-proof architecture.
So I'd like to understand from Saurabh, if you could tell us a little bit about Informatica and your experience in this space, and why should the customer be following with you as their data management platform? If you could just share your thoughts.
Something very similar, in Tech Mahindra, for example, if you look at it, well, of course, from a service capability perspective, we are a GSI. We bring all the capabilities to the table, right? Whether it's data management, data governance, quality, platform modernization, cloud. We have all of those capabilities. But we also continuously try to develop certain IPs and platforms that helps, that helps our customers speed up the entire process, or save efforts, or save time and save cost. And that is exactly what Informatica has also been doing, right? So whatever the customer wants to achieve, they have been trying to modernize their platform so that it can save time, effort, and cost, in the long run or in the process.
Thank you, Saurabh. And on the similar line, Waqar, what's your perspective? Wanted to understand on this.
Manoj, sure. I think for years, Informatica has championed the cause of data-driven digital transformation. And I won't be shy in claiming that we are the market leader in that space. As Saurabh was saying, we have a proven track record of helping hundreds and thousands of customers regionally and globally. But at the same time, we have preempted and in many cases, led the market where the market is moving to shape the vision and set the agenda of, when it comes to data management. When you talk about data management, it is not a set of products, right? It is a set of capabilities that the customer would need at different stages of maturity. And for them to graduate from one stage to the other, they'll have to unblock different set of capabilities. And I think that's where Informatica's unique value proposition is. That, we are not just an ETL company, or we are not just an ingestion or data governance platform, right? We talk about data management journey on a platform basis, but at the same time, we are very flexible to tailor ourselves to customers' roadmap and their requirements. We can start small, scale really, really fast. Gone are the days, where data management or analytics projects used to take 2-3 years. I'm working with customers today where customers started with us 2-3 weeks back, and they started processing billions of rows of data into the new cloud lakehouse platform. So to recap, Informatica is the market leader when it comes to data management. And when you talk about data management, you're talking about data cataloging, data governance, data security, ingestion, APIs, master data management. And we are the only vendor who can do it all on one platform at scale and at the pace of our customers' choice.
Sure.
Absolutely. I think I would second that.
Yeah. And that's a great discussion. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for your time and discussing these trends. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manoj.
Thank you.